Jesus Christ, I feel like someone punched me in the back of the head. Okay, testing, 1, 2. Here we go. Help! I'm a goblin trapped inside of a pocket toy! Ah! Welcome to my show. Welcome back to my channel. My name's Citris, and today we're getting back to the one thing we love more than anything in the world. Magical girls! Magical girls, they're the ones that do it better. Magical girls, you can wear them on your sweater. Magical girls, they're cut above the rest. Yeah, magical girls, yeah, they clearly are the best. Drop the mic. So, I have no explanation for that. Let's get into what we're actually doing today. Today we're going to be doing a Magical Girl Style Swap Challenge with 9 different styles. So let's get into it. Of course, we're going to be using a character from my Starcatcher series. But first, we're going to have to design her. Because today I wanted to design with you guys the villain for the series. Or maybe the anti-hero? I don't know, we'll find out later. So let's get right into designing her. Here we go. Jumping into designing this character, I wanted her to really show the military side of the SSC in her Magical Girl uniform. Of course, out of their transformations, all of the Magical Girls that attend the school wear a matching military uniform while they attend their classes and training and whatnot. But when they're transformed, each of them gets unique outfits that fit to their subconscious idea of what a Magical Girl is. And this girl is the epitome of SSC ideology. So even her transformed form is still a little militaristic. This character is meant to be the head of her class. She is a prodigy and fast-tracked to becoming a leader of her own Magical Girl squadron. She's refined and studied and practiced and has meticulous control of her synthetic powers, which will be in huge juxtaposition to Jupiter coming in with his natural star powers, which off the bat will be just as powerful, if not more so than hers. But he has no control whatsoever, and that still puts her at an advantage. And she'll use that advantage to knock him down at every chance she can get. She is the antithesis to his new-coming ingenue. She is the tried and true, learned character. We're fiddling around on screen with color now, and as you can see, I try out a few different palettes. And if we're honest, the top right color palette was my favorite, but I didn't like the implication of the first main antagonist in the story being a POC. So I decided to mix the top right and the bottom left palettes, but giving her the pink hair with the braided style was reading hard Nurse Joy vibes. So I tried out a few new styles for her hair and settled on this design. So here she is. Let me introduce you to Camille Philippon. Now that we've got Camille designed, let's get into the Style Swap Challenge. Here's the palette that we're going to be using today. I hope you're excited for the return of the 3 from last episode that didn't get made, being Creamy Mommy, Princess Tutu, and Cardcaptor Sakura, of course. I added some of my other favorites in, and we're going to go through this drawing Camille. Let's start with my style. Here we go. There's not much to say when talking about this style that I ended up drawing in, other than for some reason, I was really feeling thick line art this day, and I knew that coming down the line for the rest of these art styles, it was going to be really thin line art because most anime tends to be. So I just went in with a heavy, thick, bold line and did all of my line work right off the bat. And I'm really quite pleased with how it all turned out. I wouldn't say this is a great description of my average everyday art style that I draw in, which is the same story for the art style I used for the last challenge, but I'm happy with how it turned out nonetheless. Jumping into the next one, let's be clear about something. I have not seen the entirety of Creamy Mommy as a show, but I know that it was one of the big jump starts to the Magical Girl genre as we know it, so I wanted to draw it here. Creamy Mommy follows that 80s Magical Girl trend of the girls not only transforming, but transforming into an older aged body during their transformed state. A trope I do not enjoy the implications of, but I do understand that this was made for little girls, and a lot of young girls dream of being older and doing adult things. Like being in an idol group, and having a job. Get your mind out of the gutters, you weirdo! Creamy Mommy overall is a joyous and fun show to watch, and I highly recommend it for those who enjoy nostalgia and hand-drawn animation. However, either run to or steer clear of its counterpart, Minky Momo. The two shows are often compared, and Minky Momo has a much darker ending and plotline than Creamy Mommy. So if you're looking for that, give it a watch. And if you're not, stay on the Creamy Mommy side of the 80s Magical Girls. I hate the ending of Princess Tutu. I have to just say this. I hate the ending of it. Princess Tutu, I absolutely loved the entire anime. The concept of a beautiful little duck becoming a swan to dance for the Swan Lake and etc., etc. And they're in a storybook, but it's not a storybook. But she's a magical girl who can save people's hearts, etc., etc. Whatever. I loved all of it. And then the ending. The ending of Princess Tutu took me out. Now listen, I get it. She had to give up that last piece so that she could save the prince. But she went back to being a duck. A duck with no memory of any of the life that she had just lived. No memory of her... Well, I guess actually now that I'm saying it out loud, it's probably not that bad if she doesn't remember it. But she had to cognitively give that up. She had to say, yeah, you know what? For you, I'll go be a duck. I'm sorry. No man is worth being a duck. Anyways, on the art side of this, I'm quite happy with how this drawing came out. I will say, the Princess Tutu eyelashes drive me insane. So drawing them literally killed my brain. But it was a lot of fun and I'm happy with how it came out. Cardcaptor Sakura is another one of those animes that I feel like everyone in the world has at least heard of. So I don't feel like gushing about how much I enjoyed it, although I did. Instead, I want to talk a bit about its art style. In my opinion, I think Cardcaptor Sakura ushered in a style of art that would be used by mangakas for years and years. I think its huge, wide-set eyes and super detailed hair and hair shines and low lights work perfectly for the manga-styled art. In fact, I feel like the style even bled over into Western artists trying to capitalize on the anime manga style. With all of those how-to-draw manga books we all grew up on, of course Western artists took it a step to the extreme, even more so than Cardcaptor Sakura does, but nonetheless, I feel like you can attribute those style changes in manga and anime art to Cardcaptor itself. So I actually had a ton of fun drawing in this style. I don't often render in this fashion, and I was quite pleased with the results. It brought me back to those how-to-draw library book days. Now listen, I could be wrong about all of that and just made it all up. It's just an opinion. A game opinion. No, we're not doing that. Let's move on to the next one. Tokyo Mumu may be one of the most followable magical girl stories I can think of. Most of the magical girl stories to date have death and revival and reincarnation and future selves and etc., where Tokyo Mumu is a bit different. It's a shorter anime with clear monster of the day style storytelling until the end of the series, where they wrap it up with a nice, self-sacrificial death bow from our main character. She ends up saving her beloved, who turns out to be an alien, and he in turn brings her back to life as a human, ending her magical girl arc, and then giving the villains a way to save their own homeworld instead of taking over Earth, cause and effect, saving the world. Tokyo Mumu also had an underplot of saving endangered species that really stuck with me as a kid, and I wish more episodic kids programs did this. Every episode you got to learn about a real endangered animal, and as someone who grew up in the American school system that teaches you nothing, this was one of the most fun ways to learn about creatures around our world that we should be protecting. Tokyo Mumu gets an A+ from me. For the next one, I've been following Natasha Allegri since her Adventure Time days. I mean, do you remember the cool stuff she used to post on Tumblr? Oh my god, I loved it. So when she started developing a show online, I started following. PuppyCat has been marred by timing difficulties and companies picking up and dropping the product and bad placement on time slots on the shows that it was on, and still through all of these years, I have kept up with it. Most recently, PuppyCat was picked up by Netflix, reanimated, and then continued from its webisodes form. I genuinely love the art style and comfy show Natasha and Netflix came up with together. The magic and the mundane is one of my favorite forms of entertainment, and while I know there is currently no plans for a season 2, I do hope the story continues. I want to know what happens to our characters and their friends. Please, Netflix, do me a solid and don't cancel every single show I like. Oh, you're still gonna cancel it? Okay. Thank you. Thanks. You can't talk about w.i.t.c.h without talking about Winx. They were at war for years battling for the dominance of magical girl fantasy media coming from Italy and into the Americas. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, Winx prevailed. Sadly, I think this is because though the storyline and animation and magic in w.i.t.c.h were much more interesting to follow along with, it falls victim to the same 80s magical girl trope that Creamy Mami and Minky Momo did. Magical girl transformation that also ages up the body. And for some reason, the creators chose to make this a huge plotline for one of the title characters, who is canonically 13, but in her transformed state, she begins a relationship with an older man. Like, an adult. Who, when he finally finds out about her real form, is disgusted and upset by the betrayal. Anyways, I don't think Western audiences' parents liked this idea of the possibility of promoting this type of relationship, and the drop in views and lawsuits from Winx ended up killing the show before its ending. The show deserved better. If the writers had changed the storyline a bit and stuck to the girl power magical show without having to write in silly side romances for the girls, I think that w.i.t.c.h could have been way bigger. I certainly loved it for its grittier nature growing up. And I think others would have too, had it had long enough to grow into its own shoes. Next up is the Powerpuff Girls. The show that launched 1 million people into further and further despair with every bad reboot. I loved Powerpuff Girls growing up. It was one of my favorite shows. The villains were all zany and instantly memorable, or terrifying and haunting my dreams. The girls each was so unique and fun, and I fondly remember role-playing Powerpuff Girls on the playground with all of my friends in elementary school. I had to be Blossom every time. I demanded it. Nowadays, I'm more of a Bubbles, but only when she's angry. Anywho, Powerpuff Girls has such an iconic style that this was super easy and fun to draw. I pulled colors directly from each of the girls, and I think that this version of Camille might make a better addition to the show than that new older sisters did. What was with that design? I'll never understand. They had a perfectly good adult Powerpuff Girl design already done from the first show. I would have preferred a return of Bunny. I mean, she was iconic and an angel too good for this world and gone too soon. Now it's time for my favorite anime of all time, AKB 0048. This is not a magical girl show. I'm sorry, I definitely cheated. Well, it's not technically a magical girl show, but it kind of is. It's an idol anime set in a far-off future where the galactic government has outlawed entertainment in order to promote more working and uninspire hope of rebellion on the planets under their control. The group, AKB 0048, is a guerrilla idol group who goes to these planets, puts on concerts for their people, and fights the giant mechas and armed gunmen trying to keep them away from their adoring fans, all while singing beautifully and doing their dances. And yes, they do transform while they're doing their songs, so it's kind of like a magical girl. I cannot stress to anyone enough how much I absolutely loved this anime. I have watched and rewatched it a minimum of 10 times. I own the only known anime figures to have ever been made of this figure. I am a true AKB 0048 superfan, and drawing in this style warmed the cockles of my aged, dark, and sad heart. So whether it fit the prompt or not, I was doing it. And since that was the last one, here's the final product of the Magical Girl Style Swap Challenge. Like last time, I wanted to take away some bits and pieces that I enjoyed from each of these styles and create an illustration. Last time we drew the fake cover of Volume 1 of Starcatcher. This time we're doing Volume 2. In this fake cover art, I'll be drawing Camille with another character. The character that explains why Camille is so desperate to push further than any of the magical girls in the SSC and be the best of them all. The reason Camille is deeply insecure and can't rely on anyone to help her. Her mother. Retired magical girl, and now head of the school Camille and Jupiter attend. A rough and angry woman who was broken by her time in the program, and now aims to make all of the girls after her work more and harder than any magical girls before, so that they don't have to witness the horror that she did during her time serving. And although the cause of her abuses may have started out noble, I believe that she's lost her way. And now she's becoming the monster that she was trying to protect the girls from. Camille, I think, in the story of Starcatcher, would start as an antagonist to Jupiter, being his antithesis, but as the story progresses, I believe that she would begin to see herself in him. As he learns about his new powers and the world that he's been thrust into, she would see herself when she was younger. I think begrudgingly, she would want to protect Jupiter from the downfalls she herself had to fight through to get to the top, eventually developing a love-hate relationship with him before becoming a trusted member of his friend group and his own right hand in the battle against the evils of the story, possibly including her own mother. Camille is meant to be a flawed character that will be the character used to illustrate the visuals of the evil of the SSC until she realizes that on her own and is forced to reflect and reevaluate. But I think it's best that through the power of friendship, she's saved to the side of good. I love a flawed character, so I love Camille, and I hope you all do as well. As for the art, I wanted to draw Camille in her mother's pose that showed the positions of power. Camille is sat, while her mother is standing, illustrating that she is beneath her in status and power. Her mother's hand is pressed down against her shoulder, keeping her sat and down. Camille's hands and feet fold in on each other in a submissive stance, and while they sit in a brightly stylized laboratory, they're framed by giant injectors with the synthetic star serum in them. Camille is in darkness, but still pushing through with light, while almost all of her mother fades into the darkness. Evil of the SSC all around them. Here's the final cover piece of Volume 2 of Starcatcher. And that's it for today, folks. Thanks so much for sticking around and watching my content. I'm having a ton of fun creating these videos about my Starcatcher series and character ideas that go along with it. So let me know if you're enjoying it too. Maybe next time we can create some of Jupiter's classmates. Who knows? That's for later, because right now, this video is done. Make sure to give this video a like and subscribe for more content from me. I've been Citris. Bye-bye.